How's everyone else doing? It's the last talk of the day. Still got a lot of energy. You know, the first day I was streaming the 101 track, and there was a lot of people that were, coming up here and encouraging people not to go to the talks. They're like, oh, it's always uploaded on YouTube. Why would you go to the talks? And I'm usually one of those people. I'm usually the person that thinks that you're crazy if you're going to come to a talk and stand in all those lines. Mostly it's the lines. Being from Wyoming, lines aren't a thing, so it like makes my heart hurt when I see people standing in line. But I don't know, to encourage people not to come to a talk, that's not, I'd say it's misguided, because there's something about being a part of an audience that's just electric. And, this is no surprise. If you think about any sort of sitcom that's out there, what do? They pipe audience into your living room. They're piping soundtracks into you, or canned laughter into you, just to make you feel that you're doing the right thing, to make you feel that, oh, I shouldn't have to go make real friends. I've got all the friends I need here in my living room. So, it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, so first off, yeah, thank you for braving the colds and the sinuses, infections and whatnot, and being here with me today. There's something electric about being in the audience, and it makes you think. It's like, what is that? What is that that's programming us to yearn to be a part of these social interactions? And if things like laughter, canned laughter, can program us to act differently, just how open, how vulnerable are we? And I thought, let's just examine one of the hardest cases that we know about, and I'm talking about Colonel Version Helen Keller. She was blind, deaf, and mute, and look at that. She's still reading. You're still piping input into her, teaching her who knows what. So it's like, if she's the most locked down system I could think of, and if she's not locked down, how wide open are we? And, I'm joking, but at the same time, I'm really not, because we can't stop stuff from coming into our eyes. We can't stop stuff from coming into our ears, mostly. You walk around Vegas, you're bombarded with stuff. So what's my motivation? I'm a software engineer by day, but I'm a frustrated consumer by night, or a media consumer. It's one of those things that says you just feel icky. You feel that like propaganda is just all over you. You can't escape it. So what can you do about it? You figure that the people who can do something about it are the ones that are doing the propaganda to begin with. You can't expect anybody else to, come to your rescue for you. So I thought, Python solves a lot of my other problems. Could Python solve this problem for me as well? So I guess it's time to take a journey. And it's time to fight your friends in alleyways and tell them to put on the glasses. And if you don't get this, you haven't watched They Live, and that's your fault. You're wrong, not me. So let's define propaganda. Propaganda is defined in this talk. It's real simple. You have a node A, you have a node B, and you have a communication stream or a data stream. This data stream is an attempt from node A to get node B to behave in such a way that directly benefits, or get node B to act in a way that directly benefits node A. It's real simple. And it goes by many names. Advertising, lobbying, social engineering, all of Las Vegas, essentially. That's all one big propaganda. Go away. So propaganda is defined by this talk. It goes by very many names. And you're probably thinking, oh, I do some of these. Am I a propagandist? Yeah, you are. We all propagandize a little bit, for sure. And it's a level like what we're willing to tolerate. What we as an individual, what we as a society, we're willing to tolerate as far as what we're able to deal with, or what we find acceptable in propaganda. But what about the word? I'd like to give a little history of the word. Because none of these words are as scary as propaganda. Propaganda is the only one that really is scary. Maybe social engineering is a little bit scary. But propaganda is the only one that's really scary. The one that's always used as a pejorative. And you gotta ask, well, what's behind that? There's definitely a reason behind that. Propaganda, first came into vernacular in the mid 1622. It stood for propagating the faith. The world was getting larger, and that like our ships could sail further. The world was also getting smaller, and that kingdoms and factions were starting to bump into each other. And so you had like this pope that's like, God, I don't want to deal with all this shit that's on the outer reaches of my kingdom. I'm just gonna. He didn't say that. He speaks Latin, and he stood up this this propagation of faith, and it became effective almost immediately. In fact, like the guy that was in the cardinal that was in charge of the propagation committee, he was known as the Red Pope. He was essentially an ad hoc pope for all the external kingdoms out there. Very powerful. But even then, I mean, it wasn't a pejorative. It didn't become a pejorative until, as in like a negative connotation, until World War I. After World War I, what's going on there? Well, World War I is I've listened to Dan Carlin's World War I history. I don't know if I highly recommend it, but he brings up that World War I was the first war, major war since like the Napoleonic era. So you had this group of people, who weren't used to fighting, and you had to get them spun up. You had to get them hating the other people. And Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, he wrote a whole chapter on war propaganda. He's like, this is where we failed. The English and the Russians, they were way better than us. We've got to do a lot better. It was at this time also, and Hitler called it propaganda. He loved the word. And so that's why it became a bad word here. Edward Bernays, he's the father of modern day propaganda. He lived at the same time period. And he wrote in his book Propaganda, he lamented. He goes, propaganda is such a fine word. And the Nazis went and ruined it. He's like, well, we've got to come up with a different word. And the word he came up with was public relations. That's the term. Did the Germans learn their lesson? Well, after World War II was over, the liberators, or however you want to look at them, were coming through Germany, and they came across this man named Reinhard Gehlen, and they looked at his anti-communism propaganda, and they're like, man, this is good. Can you do this in English? And he was like, yeah, yes, I can totally do that. And it was very effective. We have this retired CIA officer saying that we fed his propaganda, that his anti-communism propaganda. They fed it Pentagon, the president's office, and it was just he called it. It was basically bullshit. It was boogeyman bullshit. So yeah, the Germans did learn their lesson. I mean, they still lost the war, but their propaganda machine was much better. Yeah, thanks for sitting through that brief history. Let's fast forward to we have the rise of the machines with propaganda. What has that done? Now, you've probably heard a lot of stuff about how much it costs Google to power, to run their, just to pay their power bill every day. You've probably heard stuff about how, Target, could predict when one of their customers was pregnant, all those kind of stories. There's just big numbers. We're not really quantifying it as human brains. But then I saw this really neat article, the heterotopia of Facebook. The thing is, Facebook doesn't really matter. This could be any social network out there, especially online. And yeah, go ahead and I highly recommend reading Heterotopia of Facebook. And it describes what is going on with the human brain very succinctly when we participate in these social media groups. These other spaces is what a heterotopia stands for. Heterotopia is where you can go. It's a space that exists in real life, but it's a space that you can go and kind of project and live a sort of, your own utopia. The thing is, everyone else is doing the same thing. So you can get curb stomped if you go out there and project your idea. You can also get your boots licked by a sycophant. What Foucault argues is that whatever happens in these heterotopias, if you're investing real parts of yourself into it, every action that happens inside this heterotopia will have an effect on you in the real world, because your brain really can't distinguish between the two. It's like, if I was a dumbass in there, why wouldn't I be a dumbass outside? And the answer is, there's no reason. There's nothing stopping you. You are a dumbass. That post, that was a shit post. Your whole life's been a shit post, So yeah, so let's say you have these heterotopias, these spaces, and you're a propagandist, and you like, a salesman comes up to you and says, look, I have these spaces where people just come and live their lives and interact with all these other people, and it is like a direct pipeline to how they act in the real world. Also, we've had machines and we've recorded everything. Could this be of use to you? I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth my time, says the propagandist. Obviously, that's not what they say. We know this because these industries are titans. Their owners are billionaires. The people, are trying to wine and dine the owners all over the place to try to get their services on, to be beneficial to them. So yeah, these heterotopias, or these social media groups that collect all of our data that we invest very real parts of our lives in, it's very important. Let's go back to 1993. Al Gore was talking about, this idea of like a gap between the information haves and the information haves not. He's warning that if we don't, provide technology to, poorer populations, they'll just get left behind. Now, in his book, that's fine. That's a noble thing to say. In his book, Data Smog, David Schenck, he made a really good point. He goes, it's one thing if you push technology onto a people, but if you don't upgrade the people, if you don't teach the people, if you don't give them the proper education of what it takes to, to understand what these devices are and what data they're producing, then you're not helping the information gap at all. In fact, you might even be widening it. So what's it take to be information have and information have nots? What's that gap? Well, to be an information have, it's not that hard. If you know what a tracking cookie is, if you know why the internet is making these people billions of dollars, if you know those things, if you know what an ad blocker is, you're already in the information haves. If you're one of these fine, outstanding citizens that need stuff to just work out of the box, you're an information have not. And whoops. I guess I can go to, do we have any examples of information gaps today? Yeah, sorry. I think so. I think one came up not too long ago. In the aftermath of the Orlando shootings, we had a statement from Hillary Clinton. She promised, as president, I will work with our great tech companies from Silicon Valley to Boston, step up our game. Now, she then goes on to give like the normal stump speech about intercepting ISIS's communications, tracking and analyzing their media posts, blah, 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 blah. We already know that. There's already been plenty of discussion about that. But what I find interesting is this, as well as promoting credible voices who can provide alternatives to radicalization. She's asking Silicon Valley to team up with them to promote credible voices. Promote them, whatever voice you deem necessary. Why do I think this is an example of the information gap? Because I don't think she could have got away with saying something like this. As president, I will work with our great New York Times and its bestseller list, promoting credible books and authors who can provide alternative radicalization. And so, yeah, that's the question. It's like, what's the difference between Silicon Valley promoting stuff on their product and New York Times promoting books on their bestseller, or promoting books on their bestseller list? It's one of those things where some people read this, they read about the government messing with their books, and they go, no, I don't think so. You stop right there, government. But why can we let the social media, the government can, talk, a presidential candidate can openly talk about how she would like, private companies to help promote propaganda. And this wasn't a one-off thing either. We had this one story you might have seen. This was in Facebook and Twitter pledged to remove hate speech within 24 hours. This was a story that was in Europe. And inside this article, we see the companies who also agreed to promote independent counter-narratives to fight hate speech, including content promoting non-discrimination, tolerance, and respect. So we have this, we have movements where private companies are asked to, produce propaganda, and are we okay with that? All right. So we have this gap: information haves and information have-nots. The best way to get information have-nots into the information haves class is for education. Just educate an information have-not into an information haves, and it's done. The problem is that this runs counter to what there's a lot of people that, in their best interest are keeping information have-nots. The more have-nots there are, the more ads, the better ads you can sell or that target the people. And, the more surveillance you can collect on people. So there's interest in keeping the information have-nots. Now you say, well, if we were to educate these people, what would it be? Thank you very much. That was a good transition to the next slide. So I'm pulling this from a lot of this propaganda information from this book called Firewall, Propagandist's Guide to Self-Defense. Jack Nolan was a PSYOP officer himself in the military. And if you don't know anything about the military, they have these things called field manuals, and they are like the man pages for war. If you ever find yourself in apocalypse, you'll want to secure a volume. Now, he's basically going through the PSYOP, basically his training, and he puts it all in this book. So first off, let's go on what's a propagandist steps? And we see here, it's mostly a normal, like a pen testing step. You start off with ID the audience. You want to do some footprinting on them. You want to, determine what the audience's, limits are, what you can get them to do, what you can't get them to do. You also want to determine who their ringleaders are. In today's, social networks, we have all these likes, we have followers. It's easy to tell who the ringleaders are, the end users. But also, you got to remember that you can also target moderators, you can target sysadmins. A propagandist may it's way easier. What are you going to do? You're going to target a group of people, or you can just target a mod who can censor everything for you if you want, if you can get them, turned to your side. The next thing a propagandist wants to do after IDing his target audience, he needs to, determine a goal state. Most of the time, the goal state is to make money. But it could be a lot of other things. The goal state could be, to get people to hate the other people so you can go to war. But mostly it's to make money. The next thing you want to do is scan for vulnerabilities on a society, on a group of people that you'd like to change their behavior on. You can tell what a society's vulnerabilities are. These are known as hot button issues. If ever you're like, ooh, that's a hot button issue, that's a societal vulnerability. That is something that someone could always wedge in there, wedge a wrench in there and try to exploit. This could be race, religion, gender, wealth. These are things that people are real sensitive about. And, it's upon the society to really patch these. You can't, if you're always going to leave this vulnerability open, it'll always be exploited. Choose the theme of the message. This is essentially the exploit of how are you going to exploit the vulnerability? Are you going to appeal to fear? Are you going to appeal to greed? In-group, out-group, that's very powerful. Like I said about people yearning to be a part of a crowd. If you can get people feeling like they're an out-group, if you can get people feeling like they're an in-group, so they continue to do what you want them to do. These are all different, this is your theme, this is the message that you want to run with. You want to appeal to something of your audience. Fear, greed, whatever. Next, you want to plan for how to grab attention. This is essentially like your payload that you're going to be delivered. You're going to do TV commercials, you're going to do internet advertising. There are many to choose from. Next, you want to test the message, measure its impact, adjust the message as needed. Repeat. In today's day and age, this is very easy to do. Obviously, this is, we get immediate feedback on the message and its impact. And, we can adjust it as needed very quickly, repeat it. So that's what a propagandist is going to do. That's his steps. What can a person do to counter the propaganda? What kind of checklist can they use for themselves? A series of questions you can ask is, can the speaker gain anything from having me listen to them? If you're talking to somebody and they, you feel, you feel that like, yes, if I listen to them, they have something that they can gain if I listen to them and, believe what they say. Ask if the source is verified. All right. So when you're reading articles, pay attention to what, who is saying what. Sometimes you'll have an unidentified source. These are good clues. So, white source. Is the source identified? This is like, you know who the author is. I'm the journalist, Glenn Greenwald. I'm publishing this article. He's putting his name out there. If a source is unidentified, you'll see sometimes, like, for instance, in the coup that happened in Turkey, it was an unidentified source that released, that the president or the prime minister was, he had sought asylum in Germany. That came from an unidentified source. And that's something that you could look into. I mean, that's something that is a very good clue. If an unidentified leak, happens, and the government tries to chase them off to Russia, you can tell that that was not a government sponsored leak. Obviously, they did not like that. However, if a source is in an article that is not identified and doesn't seem to be a big deal, you can bet that that was a sponsored leak. Like the government was okay with that one. And black is a source is falsified. Some people like Donald Trump, they say stuff that's never happened before. That is a black verification. That source it's a falsified source. He said something that no one else has even said. You also want to ask if the source is credible. Has the source lied to you before? Usually when a journalist does something, like say that they took rocket fire or they saw combat in an area, they're done. They're no longer credible. There's no reason for you to believe them. So keep track of your source. Have they lied to you before? Have they always been truthful? That kind of thing. Ask if you've heard the message repeatedly. If repetition is key to propaganda, it's like their best friend. I kind of feel, kind of reminds me of like the Unix touch command. When you run touch first, it creates a new file, right? What happens when you run it again on a file? Modifies the M time, right? Modifies that modified time. And the way our brain works is that we rely heavily on modified time. When we go to search for something, we like to go to stuff that has received activity recently. So when you send a message out repeatedly, you're building familiarity. We're when we're humans, we love familiarity. It means that you're not a tiger that's here to eat me. It means that you're a friend. And so that's why everyone's trying to push their label or their commercials or their propaganda on you all the time repeatedly. That's why it's a good sign. That's why it's a good clue. If you're seeing the message repeatedly, you're like, why am I having to see this repeatedly? Think about every time you go into McDonald's, how many golden arches you see. They're trying to build a familiarity presence. All right, manufacturing consent. This is a book written by Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman, and it's coming from the hypothesis that the media mobilizes support for special interests that dominate state and private activity. Basically, the media is not the fourth estate, is what they're deciding. What they're hypothesizing. They're hypothesizing that the media is not this neutral thing, that they will perform, to the needs of the special interests of the society. And to test this hypothesis, they developed a propaganda model. And what's in this propaganda model? One of the things, first, propaganda filters. The size, concentration, ownership. God damn it. Size, concentration of ownership, owner wealth, profit orientation of dominant mass media firms. So in our beloved capitalist systems, these media firms, these businesses in general, they're allowed to grow, they're allowed to buy more, just everything around them. So you can buy more media companies. You can, You could buy more things that aren't media companies, and now you have like a, maybe something that's making money, and you don't want your media firm to be you have a business that's shady. You don't want your media firm bringing attention to it. You own both of them. That's great. You can just tell the media firm, hey, shut up about this. The media firm will be like, all right, you're the boss. Advertising as a main source of income. This is another thing. So when media was just sold as a subscription-only kind of a thing, the government's, publications were allowed to talk a lot of shit about governments and a lot of people in power. But it was hypothesized, like, well, if we just turn it over to the market, and so maybe the media will kind of sort itself out. It'll get back in line. People won't be as anti-government. And it really worked. And one of the ways, as soon as advertising came in, it allowed for, more rich people than, the rest of the population to come in and, kind of sort of invest in these media companies, allowing them to grow bigger. And so that's another way. If you can't own the media, what you can do is you can own, part of the advertising. That's a way that you can get your own kind of check and balance into like what message the media is putting out there. And then we have this idea of like reliance of media on information provided by government experts funded by primary resources. This is where we get the idea of press conferences from. So we have 24-hour news, and we have, or at least news that, we have a newspaper every day, we have a news hour every day, and yeah, we do have 24-hour news. How do they have news to give? Well, this is where very powerful entities such as governments and corporations can set up a press conference. Be like, oh, you want news? You can just come to this location at this time. There'll be coffee and donuts. All you have to do is listen to us tell our side of the story. And that's very important because now you have the media and the government just kind of working together. And you kind of hear about it, when some journalist goes rogue and gets their credentials pulled for being allowed into the press conference. So it gets journalists to kind of stay within bounds so they can stay getting news from these press conferences. And also think about what this does. If like you're on the other side of the world and one of these big entities harms you in some way, you have to wait for a journalist to like fly over and stick a microphone in your face. Whereas with press conferences, by the time that journalist gets across seas to interview the victim, and the home side, the big entities, they'll have had their opinions in the public sphere for who knows how long. So press conferences are very beneficial. They're very beneficial to both the media and government and high power entities that can afford to do these press conferences for journalists. Flack is a way of disciplining the media. So if ever the media does something bad, you have to have ways that you can tell the media you don't like that. One of the ways you can do this is, you can have counter stories run. You can have, withdraw your advertising, this kind of thing. You just want to make life difficult for any media that dares say something bad about you. Another thing the propaganda model has is it has this thing called boogeyman enemies. When manufacturing consent first came out, communists were the boogeyman. And the way they wrote it, it's like they assumed the communists would be the boogeyman forever. We have terrorists as boogeyman today. Another boogeyman we have, as we've been going over before, is hate speech. Hate speech is being used, to get social media companies to help propagandize its users. All right, so we learned some things about propaganda. What can we do? Well, I decided to make a Reddit clone. Why did I make a Reddit clone? Well, because I'm addicted to Reddit, all right? And, my friend told me, he's like, that's doing weird things to your brain. I didn't listen, and so now it's the only way I can solve problems. Because, the thing about Reddit, though, is it's a very organized website. And so if you can get rid of the people, it's very pleasant. And, when you think about, I want to better my media consumption, We're all familiar with this, with this concept of end-to-end encryption. We don't want things in the middle. We want, end-to-end. So could we do the same thing to our media consumption? Can we get as close as possible to the knowledge source without having, all these grubby paws in there trying to change the message? Another thing that Reddit does, it gets rid of mods and admins. This is huge. Like, I don't know, Reddit has a lot of drama that gets kicked out because the mods and admins did something that was seen as censorship. Luckily, I have not had to do any of that because I don't go to those weird subreddits, but, they have a point. If, like, mods and admins can just choose to do stuff and, against your will, do you want that in a news source? Also, it's open source with a very easy install script. And it's got this, Python, the Python Pro module is a very decent module for, scripting your Reddit bots. I don't know why that keeps going on. So I just stood up this DigitalOcean droplet. It's running Ubuntu. This is the Reddit install script. I mean, you can run it on like whatever version, Ubuntu or whatever that can support it. If you're brave enough, you can tweak it to your heart's desires. But like if you want life easy and something like DigitalOcean and we'll make it that easy, you can just select whatever install Reddit shell is looking for, and bam, within 15 minutes you'll have a Reddit clone up and running. I wanted to leave the Reddit code alone. I was like, once I got it up and running, I was like, all right, that's fine. So then I just used Pra and Bottle. Anyone here use Bottle? It's very lightweight Python framework. It's very lightweight. Creates stupid simple API that I can just send commands at it, and it'll just send commands at my Reddit clone. Also, I use this thing called Summary API. Summary API was a life send because I had all my scrapers out. I had stuff like the natural language toolkit out, and Parsey McParseface came out not too long ago, right? So I was like, wow, I can do all this stuff. But then, luckily, Summary comes out. I was like, I do all that for you. Plus, I don't have to. What it'll do, it'll go out. You can send it a link or you can send it text, and it will run an analysis on it and pull out the important sentences. This is literally, if you've ever seen like a too long didn't read bot, it's probably using this exact site. It's great at just taking the article and munching it down to however many sentences you want. You can munch it down to a tweet. You can, if you wanted to. So yeah, I was very happy to know about these guys, and I relied on them heavily. Also, look, I'm a slow reader. So if I can just shorten articles, it's like, look, I'm either going to run a 10-sentence synopsis of this article or I'm not going to read it at all. So thanks, Summary. All right. Yeah, everyone are ready for excited demo? Look, it's Reddit. Don't get too excited. So this is, so when I said it was very simple, that was a lie. Oh, can you guys know? Because I killed some of my bots, but I have one bot up and running. So yeah, it's very simple. Like whatever domain the article came from, that's going to be the subreddit. Whatever author wrote it, that'll be the user. And so Reddit's a great way. You can select all the things that were published by the Intercept, all the things that were published by that author, and that part of the organization is done automatically. The next thing you can do is so let's take a look at this summary, because that's what we're looking at here. So I did away with titles. The journalists aren't the ones who decide an article's title. That goes to the editor. The editor wants to, he wants people to click on it. He's going to make it clickbaity. So get rid of it. Like I said, if we want end-to-end, why not just get rid of that? He's going to try to get you to click on it, so get rid of it. And so what I have is just the first 300 integers, or 300 characters, is Reddit's limit. So that's my title. So I read the first couple sentences, and then we're going to load it, or we're not. Oh, shoot. Oh, well. I had one loaded up here. I thought I was on DEF CON. Oh, wow. No. Okay. Well, and I realize I'm all, you all are so kind. I'm already way over. All right, real quick, let me just go over this. Tips for reading internet comments. Don't read internet comments. All right? It's first off, it's not doing good stuff for your health. All right? You get upset, it's raising your blood pressure. You're using your free time or work time, and probably someone on the other end is getting paid for that. All right? So you're hurting yourself. Not only that, but we're seeing more of this. First off, if you're Russian, you're a troll. But you're a Facebook warrior if you're British. That's some interesting propaganda in and of itself. But we're seeing more of these things called astroturfers or trolls, or however you want, very many names. And that's very powerful. That's like, you're talking with somebody, like we were talking about in your heterotopia. You're talking with someone and you think it's real, but they're not real. And so, also I like this. It's like where, Russia has the troll army, but, if you're, we're going to go look at, we're going to have an internet stranger tell me who I should vote for. That's above board. So even if you think you're the best internet debater in the world, you don't have an incentive. You don't have a money incentive on the line. But I would argue that that's not the main reason you shouldn't argue with internet trolls. And the main reason, I think, comes from the Correct the Record. This was Hillary Clinton's super PAC, and they were talking about, we astroturf people. And in the statement, lessons learned from online engagement with Bernie bros during the Democratic primary will be applied to the rest of the primary season and the general election. So, it's even if you think that, you're getting good ideas out there and you're throwing them out there, you're really not. You're just helping them. You're building their knowledge base. You're helping them get better. It kind of reminds me of like Rick and Morty when it comes to those little microverses. They're able, you have this internet and you're in your little thread and but really all you're doing is you're speeding up their testing. You're speeding up their knowledge of how to propagandize the rest of the population. Because as they, come out of that, out of your thread, they come into the real world and they're like, oh, we have just the commercial for you. All right, so just don't. However, all right, so if you do insist on reading internet comments or if you want to comment with somebody, take out the public part of it. Take out the vanity part of it, whether it comes to upvotes or, retweets or any of that. Just take all that and go to DM or PM, see about that. I think most people, they've been accepting. They'll talk to you on DM, on the DL. So, if you're interested, some documentaries I recommend. Manufacturing of Consent. It's about 3 hours long. This is a documentary on Noam Chomsky, and he goes over a lot of his theories on propaganda. Century of Self is about Edward Bernays. This is the movement from all right, we just kicked ass in a war. Now what we can do? We can make a lot of money. That's what we can do, and that's what Century of Self's about. It's about turning propaganda onto the private sector. Some books, again, Manufacturing Consent and Propaganda by the same people. Firewall, that was made by Jack Nolan. I don't know, I didn't put his name. Now, some sites. All right, so I didn't mention fair.org, and I didn't mention On the Media podcast. Fair.org, the fairness and accuracy in reporting. They do a lot of newsletters on how to, on just some bullshit that the media does. On the Media podcast, it's about, if you like Radiolab, it's kind of the same kind of production value. They give 15 to 50 minute podcasts. And they do some interesting topics on how the media is treating various different subjects. All right, thank you for coming. You've been too kind. All right, hold up. So if you wanted to see, yeah, this is a summary. I've got like little 10-sentence summaries. You can come through and you can read the article very quickly if you wanted to. And I always include a link, so you can go see the real thing if you wanted to. Anyways, all right, now I'm done.